you hide yourself and shield your love from me. Oh, don't you hide yourself. Elechamda libi. Oh, don't you hide yourself. I'm standing here in need. Oh, don't you hide yourself. Elechamda libi. 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 Elechamda
Shabbat Shalom. It's good to be here with you this morning once again. As we prepare for our worship, we are going to turn to page 169. The link for our Siddur is in the chat here on Zoom. It is in the comments on Facebook. You can find the link right below your screen if you are watching on our live stream on our website. All those places, or simply open up your heart, your mind, your soul to join us in prayer and song and meditation this morning. On the bottom of page 169, we give thanks to you, O God, for this Shabbat day, which unites us as a community of faith and hope, for holiness of Shabbat, which can lead us to fulfill the best that is in us. We give thanks for the memories of Shabbat, enriched by generations of our people who observed it and from it drew courage to face hardship and light to banish darkness. We are grateful. We offer thanks for the peace of Shabbat, the day consecrated to family love. O God, our turning to you exalts our humanity. You are the joy of our life, the source of our greatness, its power and its beauty. Help us, O God, to find inspiration for the coming week. Help us to find peace within ourselves and one another. We begin with singing Kine Matov.
Matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. Matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad.
On page 173, we think about our bodies and our souls, praising God for our ability to be here and heightening our recognition of the intricacies, the wonderment of our internal workings. The rabbis of old, though they did not have the science that we possess, still understood what a miraculous thing the human body is. And so we offer prayers first for the body, then for the soul. On page 173, we read our English together, and then Joel will lead us in Elohai Neshama. So join with me. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. With divine wisdom, you have made our bodies, combining veins, arteries, and vital organs into a finely balanced network. Wondrous maker and sustainer of life, Were one of them to fail, how well we are aware we would lack the strength to sustain life before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of our health and strength. Baruch atah Adonai, rofei chol basar, umafli la'asot.
Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi Tehora, Tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi Tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi Tehorahi. Elohai Shama Shenata Tabi Tehora Tehorahi.
On page 180, Ilu Devarim She'en Lahem Shi'or. These words remind us of our obligation to each other in good times and bad, showing us how the fabric of our society is only as strong as the effort we put in to make it whole. Join with me. These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. On page 194, we continue with Chatzi Kadesh. I invite you to rise if you are able and remain standing through the Shema. I'm doing Chatzi Kadesh. Okay, I am. Yitkadav, yitkadash, meraba, amen. Ve'almad yivrach yurtei, v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayedecho ben Yisrael. B'hagala u'b'yizman kariv. Ve'yimeru, amen. Yesh meraba mevarach. Le'olam olam le'olam haya. Yitbarach, Yitbarach v'yishtabach, Yitbar v'yitrama v'yinaseh, V'yitzadar v'yitzaleh v'yitzalah, Shemei dekudesha b'richu, Le'ela min kol merchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nachavata, Damira me'alema, V'yimeru amen.
Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. Barech Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Le'olam Va'ed. Yalalai lai lai, 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 yalalai lai lai. We continue on page 195 with Yotzer Or. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Yotzer Ose shalom, shalom, uvorei et hakol. Yotze or, uvorei choshech. Ose shalom, shalom, uvorei et hakol. Uvorei et hakol. Uvorei et hakol.
We continue in the Hebrew. Hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha berachamim uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chochma asita mal'ah ha'aretz kinyanecha, tiparach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, ve'al me'orei or she'asita yifa'arucha selah, or chadash al Tzion ta'ir, v'nizkechu lanu meherat le'oro, Baruch ata Adonai Yotzer HaMe'orot. On page 199, we read together. O God, inspiration and guide for all, you have spoken in 1,000 tongues for us to hear. In every land and every age, your children have heard you and imagined you in separate ways. And yet, O God, you are one unifier of humanity. We give thanks for the sages and teachers who bring us understanding of your will. Gratefully, we recall the lawgivers and prophets, the psalmists and sages of Israel, and joyfully we remember that from the dawn of Israel's life, we would turn to you and find purpose. May the teachings of our ancestors live on in our minds and their passion for righteousness stir our hearts. Help us to live so that our daily conduct reveals the beauty and wisdom of your truth. Baruch atah Adonai habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava. Page 200.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Shem Kevod Mahuto Leolam Vaed. We continue on page 201 with Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta, please be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
Emet. On page 203, we read together. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. Micha Mocha.
Elim Adonai, mi kamocha ne'edar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele. Shir החדשה שבחוג גאולים, לשמך על שפתיים, יחד כולם הודו וימלכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
Zor Yisrael, Kuma Bezrat Yisrael, Ufidechenu Mecha, Yehuda veYisrael, Go Aleinu, Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch Atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. We turn to page 205 as we rise for the Amidah. Adonai Sifatai Tiftach Ufi Agi Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, V'zocher chastei avot v'imahot, u'mevii geula livnei b'neihem, l'man shemo be'ahava, melech ozer u'moshiach u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechayeh hakol atah rav le'oshia, mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, somech noflim verofeh cholim, umatir asurim, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, כך כתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו, מדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גאון לך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You may be seated. I'm having some mute problems. I don't know. You may be seated as we turn just one page to 211 to give thanks and sing joyfully for the gift of Shabbat. Yismechu.
ישמחו ומלכותך שומרי 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 שבת, קוראי עוני שבת. ישמחו ומלכותך שומרי 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 שבת, קוראי עוני שבת. מקדשי שבי שבת, כולם יספרו ויתנגמתו לך שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת, קוראי עונג שבת. והשביעי רצית בו וקידשתו שבת, חמדת ימים אותו קראת שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת, קוראי עונג שבת. זכר למעשה בראשית שבת, זכר למעשה בראשית שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שומרי shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat yismechu v'malechutecha shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat.
On page 212. On this Shabbat day, as you graciously receive our prayers, help us to hear your call. Grant us enough health to fulfill our duties and the compassion we need to attend to others. Teach us humility that we may perceive our own faults, and grant us the wisdom to be forgiving of others. Give us the courage to be true to our highest selves and the charity to see the best in those around us. Give us patience enough not to become discouraged, hope enough to overcome all fears for the future, and faith enough to know your presence. O source of blessing, look with favor upon us. May our offerings be acceptable to you. We praise you, Adonai, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levarecha, be'yirah na'avod. Hoda'ah, our prayer of thanks, a poem not found in your prayer book. Ralph Waldo Emerson's words remind us to take stock of the little things, to be thankful for the small gifts and miracles we encounter every day. He writes, in single file, the days bring their gifts. We choose and pay for them with time. In the morning, we have today. It's ours, our currency. At night, they will have been exchanged. For what? For a task well done, a house lovingly cared for, for contentment or regrets, for a memory which blesses or burns, for a little more wisdom. And so I ask you to take just a moment, close your eyes if you want, and breathe in and breathe out. Focus on the week that has passed. Think of a gift that you received or you gave. Think about what you're most thankful for. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha lecha na'el hadot. Eternal God, whose nature is goodness, for all your gifts, big and small, we give you thanks and praise. On page 216, we share in Birkat Shalom our prayer for peace. Sim Shalom.
Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Chen v'chesed v'rachamim Chen v'chesed v'rachamim Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael Amecha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha
We take a few moments for our own personal thoughts and prayers for peace.
Ose shalom bimroma huya ase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimromav huya ase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimromav huya ase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimromav huya ase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen.
This week's Torah portion is Miketz, and we are in the midst of our Joseph story. If my 2 minutes of Torah had made it onto the weekly email, thank you, Joel, I would have told you that this is a critical moment in the story. As I talked about last night, Joseph has gained some humility in his life because of his life experiences as a slave, in a pit that his brothers threw him into, in jail. Things have not gone according to plan for him. But the section we're going to look at right now is the moment where the brothers, his brothers who sold him into slavery, are starting to also reckon with their own past in order to create a better future. This story, if you don't already know, is a pretty dense story with lots of narrative detail, which is somewhat unusual in Torah, probably why it's one of my favorite stories in Torah. But our parsha starts, Joseph has been freed from jail because he has the ability to interpret dreams. He interprets Pharaoh's dreams correctly, is put as second in command of Egypt so he can prepare for the famine. The famine comes. The brothers, Joseph's brothers, are sent by their father to Egypt to get supplies and foods because it's the only place that has those things. And of course, the brothers show up. They see Joseph. They have no idea who he is. He's changed his name to an Egyptian name, but he recognizes them and starts to create a series of situations to test them and to see if they are still the same people who are willing to throw their little brother into a pit, or whether they have evolved and grown. So the section of text we're going to look at today, which Joel is putting up for us right now, and Joel, could you make it slightly bigger if possible, helps us. So after they have spent 3 days in jail, and remember, 3 is always a really important number in Judaism. And usually when 3 days have passed, it is code for a significant period of time has passed, but within a short time frame. So when Abraham and Isaac are walking towards their sacrificial moment in the Akedah, 3 days pass, right? There are lots of other moments where 3 days reminds us that it's still in our narrative, short-term narrative scope, but enough time has passed for some impact to have happened. So Joseph is going to speak to his brothers, and after having already accused them of being spies, he's going to recant on that. but he's going to give them some conditions for receiving aid, and they are going to start to reckon with their own behavior. So we're going to start with Genesis chapter 42, verses 18 to 22. And Anna, will you read the English for us? You good? You should be able
Yes,
to.
now I am. Yeah.
I know. I guess I have to ask people to offer the unmute capabilities. Okay. Thank you.
I think I'm on. On the third day, he said to them, "Do this and you shall live, for I am a God-fearing man. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers be held in your place of detention, while the rest of you go and take home rations for your starving households. But you must bring me your youngest brother, that your words may be verified and that you may not die." And they did accordingly. They said to one another, "Alas, are we being punished on account of our brother, because we looked on at his anguish, yet paid no heed as he pleaded with us? That is why this distress came upon us." Then Reuben spoke up and said to them, "Did I not tell you, do no wrong to the boy? But you paid no heed. Now comes the reckoning for his blood."
So we learn a lot of things in these verses. First, Joseph, of course, knows that the youngest brother who's been left behind is Benjamin, and he is setting them up to see what they will do. Will they sacrifice their, we'll see that later as well. Will they sacrifice the other son of Rachel, just as they sacrificed him, right? So he sets up a test for them. And then the brothers, they have a little conversation amongst themselves. And this is the key verse that we're going to focus on. We're being punished on account of our brother, not Benjamin, of course, but Joseph, who now they all assume is long dead, right? So Nechama Leibowitz puts forth an interesting question for us to consider about the brothers and where they are as human beings in their perspective on the world and on their own behavior. Dimitri, will you read that first Leibowitz quote on 3 occasions?
On 3 occasions, the feeling of guilt and consciousness of their wrongdoing emerges and wells up from the words uttered by the brothers. The first occasion occurs during their conversation after Joseph released them from prison, where they had been placed for 3 days. Why are these feelings of guilt and remorse only awakened after the Egyptian governor had relented and agreed to send them home, keeping back only one of them? Why did they not recall the sale of their brother during 3 long days in prison, when they lived in fear of what destiny awaited them and were apprehensive that they would not return home?
Right, so Leibowitz is asking a pretty subtle question, right? This is the first of 3 moments where they're going to start to gain awareness. But she says, they were in jail for 3 days and they didn't know it was only going to be for 3 days, right? So why weren't they sitting in jail for 3 days saying, "Oh my gosh, what is this? Why are we being punished? This is so awful," right? That doesn't seem to be the thing that stresses them out. It's when Joseph says, "Go get your other brother and bring him here," that suddenly like a light bulb goes off in their heads, right? I mean, it's been 2 decades. A light bulb goes off in their head and says, "Oh my goodness, God is now punishing us for what we did to Joseph." And we didn't even see it before this moment, right? So Leibowitz is saying, why now? Why not while they were in prison? Why, once they're free and they have a plan of action, are they going to be so anxious? Okay, so now the commentaries kind of play that out for us and help us understand. Jerry, will you read the Akedat Yitzchak?
Only when they were faced with the prospect of returning home to their father, one brother short, did the memory of Joseph arise in their minds by association.
Right? So they were, maybe not the smartest, maybe not the sharpest pencils in the pack, right? Suddenly they're like, "Oh, we're going to lose a brother, just like we lost another brother. Wow. Okay. So now the association is clear to them. But here's another piece to think about. Michael, will you read this other Leibowitz quote? Michael Janka.
I'm sorry, I can't read. The print is too small on my screen.
Okay. Anna, will you read the Leibowitz?
The information regarding Joseph's supplication for the mercy of reaches us indirectly through the remorseful remedy of the brothers, rather than in its true chronological context.
Okay, so this is like what I like to call like a bonus insight for us, right? Note in the thanks. Oh, I need to see the text though. Sorry. Note in the Torah text, they talk about the fact that their brother cried out and asked for mercy in the pit. But if we were to go back to the section in Torah where he was thrown into the pit, we don't get any dialogue at all. Okay, so Leibowitz is reminding us that there was more that happened that we didn't hear. Not surprising, because the narrative is always very succinct, but here's the Torah giving us a clue back in time. Why is that detail so important right now? Because it's reminding them of the fact that they acted in such a cold way. And now with time past, hopefully more maturity, they're really coming to grips with just how evil their actions really were, right? So, and Ramban is going to show us that what they really see now as their wrongdoing. Michael, can you see that better? Do you want to read the Ramban? No. Oh, yes.
We saw the anguish. They considered their callous deafness to Joseph's pleas to be a greater wrong than the actual sale.
So what is Ramban saying? What are the brothers really thinking they did wrong, or not even what? So they're not even coming to grips with the fact that they sold their brother into slavery. They're just remembering that when their brother tried to convince them to help him out, they ignored him, right? And so again, irony, because now the brothers have come to Joseph to ask them for him for help, and he's not ignoring them, right? Though, I mean, a different kind of help. But here we have this, they're really coming to grips with how they treated their younger brother, who made them insane, right? And coming to realize that no matter how frustrating somebody is, you still can't act cruelly towards them. Sforno lays this out for us. Jerry, will you read the Sforno for us?
This made us guilty of being cruel against our brother, even though we considered him
halachically
in the category of rodef, someone threatening us, a pursuer. We should have reacted with pity once he started pleading with us. Now we are being punished by being treated cruelly ourselves by the ruler of this land.
Okay, so what is a rodef, right? We think of our congregation, Rodef Shalom, right? Rodef Shalom, that's here in San Antonio. So a rodef is a pursuer, and usually in Jewish context, it's like a pursuer of peace, which is what Rodef Shalom means. But a rodef is also seen in a threatening context, particularly in rabbinic text, as it literally means a pursuer. So a pursuer of peace is a nice thing, but a pursuer of your property or your land is not a nice thing, right? So the brothers had made it very clear to Joseph that they didn't like him and didn't want him around. Let's recall that Jacob said, Joseph, go and see what your brothers are doing. Like, go spy on your brothers, right? He knows they don't like him, and they know, and they've tried to make it very clear that he should stay away, but he doesn't. So when he shows up, they think, like, here he comes again. We're going to make him pay for being a snitch, right? This is Torah portion ago. So they're like, he has it coming to him, and they throw him in the pit. But once he started acting piteously, we should have relented. We should have sent him back to dad and said, you shouldn't be here, go away. Instead, they took it to the next level, and they wanted to kill him, right? But instead they just sold him into slavery. Now they're being punished, right? So Meir Weiss helps us understand how this recognition, this remembering of what they did so long ago and coming to grips with how cruel they were, right, emotionally and physically, is going to be the first step for them in moving away from selfishness towards empathy and compassion, and is going to enable the reunion that will happen in next week's Torah portion. Dimitri, why don't you read the Meir Weiss for us?
The recalling of this long-buried episode here at this juncture represents the awakening of the brothers' conscience. Joseph's heart-rending pleas for mercy now well up from the depth of their own hearts, more than they emanated from the pit. This constitutes the underlying intention of the narrative in citing this detail here. It is meant to reveal what was going on in the consciousness of the brothers at the moment. It indicated their remorse.
So this is, I mean, it's a great story. It's a great soap opera, but I also think it reminds us that no matter how people have acted in the past, it doesn't mean that they're not capable of remorse and insight. And from a Jewish perspective, teshuva, right? I mean, there's lots of actors out there in the world who we see as having quite nefarious motives. And yet that doesn't mean that they're not capable of growth and repenting and returning. The story of Joseph and his brothers is a great narrative tale full of lots of interesting detail. But I think this particular moment helps us understand the brothers, who are painted really as hapless villains, but they're really insecure men who are in the 20 years since they punished their brother, have come to a greater awareness of who they are and what their place is in the world. They're going to act better as the Parsha goes on, and next Torah portion 2 show honesty and compassion and bravery, and in the end are going to reconcile with Joseph, or Joseph will reconcile with them, and of course save all the Jewish people from famine. All right, stay tuned for next week's installment of the Joseph Saga. Elaine Kovner is going to chant Torah for us this morning, which is a wonderful treat. So Elaine, we're so glad you are here. And our Torah blessings can be found on page, I'll tell you in a moment, 250 if you want to follow along. And Elaine, do you want to do the Torah blessings, or do you want me to do the Torah blessings?
Would you please do them?
I would be happy to. Everyone join with me. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Me'em Ha'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech olam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai noten ha'torah. Amen.
Amen. Vayomer Alehem Yosef Bayom Hashlishi Zot Asu V'hiu Et Elohim Ani Areh Im Kanim Atem Achichem Echad Yeser B'veit Mishmerachem Ve'atem Lechu Haviu Shever Ravon Betechem Ve'et Achichem Hakaton Teviu Alai Ve'amnu Divrechem V'lo Tamutu Ve'asuchem Ve'amru Ish Alachiv Aval Ashemim Anaknu Al Achinu Asher Ainu Tzarat Nifsho Behichananu Aleinu Be'al Shemanu Al Kain Be'al Aleinu Hatzara Hazot Ve'an Reuven Otam lemor, Halo, Hamarti Alachem lemor, Al Tachitu Be'alad, Ve'aled Below Shamatem, Vegan Demo Heinei Midrash.
Shakoach. And we do our second blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. Yishar koach Elaine. Beautiful chanting. Thank you for preparing that text for us. In the presence of Torah, we take a moment now to offer prayers of healing for those who face the future not fully whole. Just a moment, we'll have a screen up with names of people in our own community in need of healing. And to their names, we add the names of those who are in our hearts, as well as those around our world who are suffering from the effects of COVID-19, whether they are physically ill with the virus or are caring for loved ones or are just feeling the strain of living in this pandemic world for so long. So we think of all who need strength and hope and healing, offering up our personal prayers. We sing Misha Berach together.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishe Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Amen. Our concluding portion of our service begins on page 283 with Aleinu. I'd ask you to all please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, וגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. You may be seated. As we get ready to share in the words of Kaddish, I offer you a meditation on the top of page 289 from the New Union Prayer Book. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love are we comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. On this Shabbat, we consecrate yortzites observed in our congregation this week and read their names out loud. They are Jack Art, Blanche Barnett, Oscar Beck, Eleanor K. Benjamin, Ronald Berg, Joseph Berlowitz, Dan C. Boone, Matthew Cervantes, Marilyn Charles, Judah Cohen, Jerry Cutler, Natalie Dalkowitz, Dr. Herbert Allen Davis, Leonard Dietz, Sylvia DeMittman, Mary Diskin, Jacobo Drezer, Bela Eidelberg, William Feldman, Joseph Fink, Carlton Foote, Raphael Gabay, Alfred W. Gardner, Sadie Glickenhaus, Etta Goldstein, Joseph Gullen, Sam Gurwitz, Hilmer H. Hubaum, Edna S. Hollander, Mike Holliday, Ruth Friedman Callison, Jonathan Lee Kaplan, Isak Kirschberg, Elizabeth Korzeniowski, Dorothy Kresbach, Elaine Wolf Kustoff, Sylvan Lang, Sidney Morris Levison, William Frank Lowe, Juliet Madden, Rebecca Miller, Ben Mitchell, Dr. Leo D. Moss, Julius Palins, Sanford Panitz, Klava Pavlenko, Pearl Rubik, Sherry Schlossberg, Latrice Letty Simon, Leonard Sterling, June Voltz, Hirozi Wainshaw, David Warshauer, Albert Wolf, Saul Wolfson, and Joseph Ziskin. To their memories, we link the names of those who in the last 30 days Shloshim have been laid to their eternal rest. Tevye Lee Friedman, Mildred Vogel Ehrenberg, Amy Wolf, Annette Dover, Robert Earl Tolan, Gerald Dubinsky Sr., Benedito Oliveira, Samuel Wagner Stewart, and Jody Hoffer. To their memories, we link the names of two who this past week were laid to their final resting places. Herbert Charles, father of Stephen Charles and Phyllis and John Patterson, brother-in-law of Sarah Yaron and Ruth Chaffetz, grandfather of Dr. Lara Dean, Kyle Charles, Sam Kalista, and Austin Kalista, and 4 great-grandchildren, as well as Pedro Rosas Jr., father of Christina Weinfeld Rosas. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for blessing, along with the memories of those who we hold in our own hearts every day. As we turn to page 294 to share in the words of Kaddish, we rise, one community linked together in soul and spirit, to share these ancient words out loud. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayachon uvyomechon uv'chayedzicho beit Yisrael, v'agala uv'yizman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mivarach le'olam omei omaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalel shemei dekudesha brechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiram be'amha v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mrama, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to all the world, to which we say, amen. You may be seated. Our closing song is Odon Olam on page 321. Thanks again to Elaine Kovner, our Ba'alat Kriya, for chanting Torah for us, and Joel Swedlove for helping lead services and singing new, not brand new, but new to us, or not that regular to us, but really wonderful melodies to spice things up a little bit. Odon Olam.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Li'ed Nasa, V'chefso Kol, Azai Melech, שמו נקרא. ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם השם מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לי נשא בחפצו כל זי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי כלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם השם מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לי נשא בחפצו כל זי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי כלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה. והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה, והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה.
That's an oldie but a goodie. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good to see you all. See you next week, celebrating on Christmas. Yay! Maybe we'll do a Don Olam to a Christmas melody. Who knows? Why not? Be safe, everyone. Good to see you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Sure as the tide was the golden sand, Benjamin is an innocent man. Sure as the man doesn't need the sun, we are the criminal guilty ones.